In the summer of 2021, I began looking for a trail riding horse. Scrolling on Kijiji, I was drawn to an 11-year-old Palomino Rocky Mountain mare named Golden Diva. A gaited horse, she would be smooth riding and could trail ride all day. She was advertised as having been to the mountains. Perfect, I thought, and made the 4-hour drive to try her out. The owner had her groomed and waiting, but not tacked up, because she said that she wanted me to see how well the horse stood for tacking up. And indeed, she was perfectly immobile, never moved. The owner led Diva out of the barn into a small pen where we would ride. She turned to go back into the barn for the bridle, intending to leave Diva standing in the pen. But as the woman walked away, Diva followed her. I liked that very much. It seemed that the horse wanted to be connected to the human. Tacked up in a big old Western saddle, I began my test ride. I felt clumsy because the stirrups were too long and the saddle too big. I was used to riding in a dressage saddle, where you can really feel the horse move under you. In the test ride, I could tell that Diva was nervous and also that she didn't have much training. But I kept hearing in my head, just show me what you want. Show me what you want. She just had like a D bit or some egg bit or something, but right in here, egg bit.
I tried her in the mountain once with a little bit of a longer shank snaffle. She responded fairly well to it, but we just let it go.
Yeah, we ride in minimal bit, right?
Yeah. She hasn't ridden at all this spring until
I mean, and that
this week.
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is quite amazing, you know.
She's actually settled down. Like this is a like people have been on her literally, including us here, for half an hour.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah, total. She's had a half an hour of riding.
So she's settling down quite a bit already, is what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the first time Chantel got on her, she was way more antsy than this.
Yeah, she's only been taught to go. She's not been taught to settle at all. Okay, that's, don't make her go. I don't want her to go any more than that, Chantel. There were two things I did note in my test ride. The Diva would stop if I stopped my seat from following her motion and then became heavy in my body. That was a whoa button. Also, that she would move away from leg pressure if I applied my leg to her side. These were two important buttons that I could build on. I thought that Diva could make a nice project horse for me to work with, so decided to buy her and begin training her. I had a vet check done and specifically asked him to check her gaits for soundness because I didn't know how to judge a gaited horse. The only thing he noted on the report was that Diva had some tenderness on her right lower back, which he thought was probably from an ill-fitting saddle. Since I would be having a saddle fitted to Diva once I bought her, this did not seem to be a deal breaker. I have no video of the first 6 weeks of work. I was shocked when I began working with Diva on a lunge line. I knew from what I had seen in the round pen with the previous owner that Diva only knew to go fast and couldn't settle and connect with the human. She had been taught that her job in the round pen was to run around as fast as she could. But what I was experiencing was way more extreme than that. She would be strung out at the very end of the lunge line, as far as I would let her out, running around in a circle with her head cocked to the outside and her eyes wide with fear. She seemed to have no sense that I was even there. It seemed to me that she was actually dissociated, as if she was back in another time to another lunging session gone really bad. What was even worse was that her legs got all mixed up and she would almost trip over herself. It seemed that she could not connect her front legs to her back legs. She could actually be in a trot gait behind and a canter gait in front, or at least that's what it looked like to me. It was all out of control. After a few weeks, she began to be aware that I was there and to connect a bit with me. She wasn't quite as frantic all the time and could settle down for a few strides at a time. But then her nervous system would go into overdrive again. She would squeal and take off running around in a circle, seemingly completely oblivious to me. If I tried to slow her down by putting pressure on the lunge line, she would rear straight up in the air. Interestingly, I was never scared when she did this. She did not appear to want to strike at me or hurt me. She just needed to go somewhere when all this flight energy built up. And if she couldn't go forward, she would go up. It became obvious to me that she'd been traumatized by something in her life that had caused her nervous system to become so hyperactive and quick to react. She would also paw the ground like crazy whenever she was tied to the fence. I had to put rubber mats anywhere I tied her, or she would dig big holes in the dirt. But she was another horse altogether when I was just hanging out with her. She loved being groomed and talked to. She would put her head in my hands and just stand there, still. She so wanted to connect with me. After I had Diva for about 6 weeks, I began my training to become a somatic experiencing practitioner, learning how to release trauma energy that had become stuck in the body. Because we were still dealing with COVID, the training was virtual. That first day, it seemed like everything moved so slowly, and it was making me crazy. The instructor talked slowly. She demonstrated slowly. I finally figured out that there must be a reason for this, and there was. She explained that when dealing with trauma, the first thing we need to do is to slow everything down. A traumatized nervous system is in sympathetic fight or flight mode until it finally goes into freeze or dissociation. As she was explaining this, I was thinking of Diva. After that first day of training, I went out to work with Diva. Only this time, I thought about slowing it down. I made sure I was grounded in my own body, breathing slowly, deeply, and regularly. I played with the lunge line, gently slowing her down, but not so much that she would want to rear up. And as I did this, she began to settle. I would blow out, like horses do when they start to relax, to show her that I was relaxing and that she could too. I was trying to talk her language. And then she blew out, and I could feel some tension leave her body. This is what I'd been looking for. Over the next few weeks, we began to make progress. Although she would initially squeal and take off running when I asked for the trot, I could get her to settle down after a while. Slowly, I got more and more moments of relaxation. There we go. Good girl. Good girl. Look at that stride open up. Good girl. Good girl. And walk. Good girl. Good girl, yeah. When the saddle fitter came to fit my dressage saddle to Diva's back, Diva was very good about it all. She stood quietly in the cross ties as the fitter took the saddle on and off and made the changes to the saddle that were needed to fit Diva's back. Diva wasn't concerned at all, just curious about what we were doing. As we were talking, the fitter told me that she'd been fitting quite a few Western saddles lately. I suggested that maybe we should try my Western saddle to see if it would fit, in case I ever wanted to use it for trail riding. Well, when I brought that saddle out of the tack room, Diva took one look at it and immediately shut down. I could see her shrink down into her body as if she was preparing for some terrible task that she knew she had to endure. I think what she did was dissociate. This is what someone who's been traumatized does when fight or flight doesn't work. I knew then that I would never ride Diva in a Western saddle, and it now made sense to me why Diva had been so immobile when her previous owner had saddled her that day. The saddle held some really bad memories for Diva, and she needed to dissociate in order to tolerate what was coming. This gave me a whole new appreciation for Diva and what she'd been through. Although I'll never really know, I wondered if that trip to the mountains had been completely overwhelming to an untrained horse. If she couldn't flee, she probably dissociated in order to cope with all the new and strange things she encountered.
You know she can flex to the left on the pole. But to the right, she's very, very stiff.
Good girl. What you doing? Are you just gonna sniff everything out and check out the place? Huh? Yeah. You can just check it all out if you want. Sniff it all out. Check it out. Yeah, good girl. Good girl. So hard not to grab at the reins. Early this spring, I decided to quit riding Diva for a while. I was finding that I was getting relaxation in the lunge work, but then, when I got on to ride, she quickly became nervous, and it took quite a while to get her to relax. I needed to spend more time on the lunge, teaching her to calm herself quicker before we could progress in the ridden work. What she needed to be able to do was bring herself down from flight energy back to calm and connect energy by herself without needing me to co-regulate her nervous system. I've had Diva for a year now, and I finally feel that I have her at a place where I can begin to train her, to begin the training that she should have had as a 3-year-old, not as a 12-year-old. She can still get excited, but I can bring her back to a state of relaxation quickly and calmly. She has taught me more about the nervous system and how it responds to a traumatic experience than I could ever learn in a book or from watching videos. She has taught me how to be calm and grounded in my own body, in my own nervous system, so that I can co-regulate her nervous system. I can now actually feel in my own body when she starts to get nervous. That's the strength of the connection between us. And she's just the sweetest horse. She loves people and is always the first horse to the fence when I go out to feed. This is her innate personality, what she was born with. But some traumatic experience had overwhelmed her and made her into a dangerous horse to work around. Rearing is one of the most dangerous things a horse can do around a human. But she was just looking for a way to flee, a way out of the sympathetic hyper-arousal that her nervous system was in. I never see anything close to that anymore. Does this mean that it will never happen again? I don't know. She may only ever be a horse for me to ride. She trusts me now, and I have earned her trust by being a safe place for her to be, by teaching her how to relax, by never asking too much that threatens to overwhelm her. Accessing trauma energy can be compared to shaking up a pop bottle. If you take the lid off suddenly, the contents spill over the edges. But if you turn the lid a little bit at a time and let the pressure out slowly, you don't get an explosion. This is how I've worked with Diva, slowly, so as not to overwhelm her, but to let that stored trauma energy release, a little bit at a time. I'm so grateful to Diva and what she's allowed me to learn about trauma recovery. Working with her has been the best experiential learning of somatic experiencing I could ever have asked for. Thank you, Diva. Yeah, you're my girl, aren't you? Yeah, let's go. Come, let's go. Come on.